Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, episode 132.
Wireless LAN Professionals is a place to educate, inform, encourage, and entertain those involved in wireless LANs. This Wireless LAN Professionals podcast is an audio manifestation of these goals. Our host is a wireless LAN veteran, consultant, designer, and teacher, Keith Parsons. And now, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals.
Today I have with me Grant, and Grant is with VAST. How are you doing, Grant?
Good on yourself, Keith. Thanks for having me.
And you're calling from?
I'm calling from South Africa, sunny South Africa. Summer for us here currently.
That's a good thing for you. We're in the middle of winter, but South Africa's, it's a nice place to go visit. Actually, you live there, so I'm sure you love it more than just visiting. Well, anyway, you are a big hotspot in Africa, and we thought we would get you on the Wireless LAN Professionals podcast because you are one, and you have some experience that a lot of our listeners don't have, which is running the internet provider side, specifically for Wi-Fi, and also in a continent that most of us don't know a lot about. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk to you about those two issues. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Well, great. How about if we start first, just a little bit about your history, where, how did you get involved in the whole Wi-Fi world and get to the technical skill set where you have now?
Yeah, so at a personal level, I've just always been fascinated and interested with tech. So ironically, has studied nothing to do with tech, actually studied, commercial commerce related subjects, and just tech's always just been close to my heart. And a number of years ago, got involved with, you'll remember, Nokia Corporation, and I worked for them for a substantial amount of years, running various countries around Africa and the Middle East for them. So that's just remained close to my heart, and really always been impressed at how in Africa telecommunication services bring such change to communities. More recently, I was involved with satellite business across Africa, and again, bringing connectivity towards communities. But for the last 3 years, I've been with VAST, as you mentioned, and that's really been something a lot closer to my heart because I can see the real tangible impact that we make in. I think the very big thing that most people don't realize about our business is we believe we're fairly unique in terms of our operating model. We haven't been able to find a similar model around the world in that we're building a national Wi-Fi network, but we don't offer any retail or consumer services across it ourselves. So we're positioning ourselves as a carrier of carriers. So providing the ability for whether you're a mobile phone operator or a broadband provider to be able to virtualize your network services over our infrastructure and not have to worry about the intricacies of deploying that network itself or running it. And within Africa, those complexities sometimes can be rather arduous and time consuming. So we free up our customers' time to concentrate on their consumer offerings.
So you don't offer direct to consumer access to your network. You sell it to others who do that. Correct.
So there's a fine line in terms of all of our transactions. All of our customers are pure business to business or B2B transactions. Where you could say we get a little bit closer to the consumer is you walk into your friendly Starbucks and you join the Wi-Fi network in the Starbucks, which would be a managed service from ourselves. We'd be running that on behalf of our customer, being Starbucks in that context. So everything that we do is a managed service. We do not sell infrastructure, so we don't move boxes out of a warehouse to our customers. We own, operate, deploy the network ourselves. So currently we cover around 10 million square meters of indoor space, predominantly hospitality, retail, and medical, and around 1 million square meters of outdoor precinct. And outdoor precinct is really where we're concentrating on now. So that's really a new challenge for us, a new learning curve. And within the context of Africa, if you can imagine informal settlements, or you may be familiar with the term squatter camps, where you see people, you've probably seen on a news broadcast, where people are living in tin shacks. So we're deploying our network there to bring high-speed broadband to those that can't actually afford communication services such as GSM.
So who is the carrier that's riding on top of you in those tin shack areas?
So wherever our presence is, all of our customers have their presence naturally extended. So at the moment, we don't segment the network and allow customers to offer their services in a particular geography or area only. So our current customer set ranges from 2 national telco operators through to a number of broadband providers. And more recently, we've seen an emergence of new players in the space being loyalty, hospitality, and brands. So brands now are starting to use communication services to extend their loyalty with their customers. So you may be selling energy drinks, but use Wi-Fi as a loyalty mechanism to encourage people to buy your particular brand. So we've got a very diverse set of customers.
And so you just provide the infrastructure. What's the decision-making process of, say, you're thinking there's this new shopping mall or this new area you'd like to light up. What's your decision matrix of deciding we need to go spend X, millions or whatever of dollars to light up this area? How is that going to be recouped?
So
what are the pieces you use to make those decisions?
So the first thing that we consider is, can we make a meaningful impact? So if we deploy our network in a town or a city where that mall is the only part of our network that affects that community, we're not really making a meaningful impact, because if we're going to bring affordable connectivity to people, it's got to be in the places that you would reasonably encounter during your leisure time or your work time or your commute. So the first caveat is we concentrate on extending and densifying the network in existing areas. So it's predominantly in the very big metropolitan areas. I think from within those areas, how we make the decision is our business has multiple different revenue streams, from broadband access to GSM offload to big data and analytics. And it's really about how does a particular venue help us achieve that business goal. So going into an MDU helps us build our broadband business, where we bring in connectivity to people that maybe can't afford to commit to a 12-month or 24-month fixed-term fiber contract, for instance. When we go into a shopping mall, it's about making sure that that broadband subscriber, now when they're in the mall out of their home, they get that extension of their services. But B, how can we help our retail customers build up a better picture and segmentation around their patrons? So it's really, there's no one size, one fit decision point. It's a multifaceted diamond, if you want to refer to it, is that we consider many different items. Naturally, we're still in a high growth phase, so we haven't been that discriminating. We're really trying to build the mass coverage as quick as possible.
Do you find any, not being familiar with South Africa laws, in these cities and metropolitan areas, do the local municipalities put legal requirements on you, like accessing light poles or power? Do you have to get permission to do these?
So in terms of accessing street furniture, we have found that to be very, very difficult to do. Unfortunately, with many cities around the world, not just within South Africa, the stakeholders that, to get access to a park bench doesn't just require the Parks Department's permission, it requires, another department's permission to traverse some form of ground to get your backhaul into that park bench, which then in turn requires traffic control because you've got to go under a road. So it's, the coordination of anywhere from 2 to 8 different agencies to deploy that and get the permissions around that is fairly difficult. The township...
That's my question. I've been through that process before, and I was wondering if it was easier there, and it doesn't sound like it is.
No, it's because the space is relatively new. I think local government, being municipalities, are treading carefully. They don't want to make wrong decisions that in the long term, prove to be detrimental to them. So it's a long and arduous process. So for instance, in our township deployment, we haven't relied on any street furniture. We've relied on small business. So if you imagine the corner barber stand and the local tavern and the community radio station or the community clinic, we use those as our anchor points and deploy a lot of outdoor APs to create big bubbles. And hopefully the overlap between the bubbles then creates a continuous network.
On that idea, what's your choice of hardware? And are you pushing mesh, or is it all point-to-point backhaul or fiber on the backhaul? What's the kind of the network infrastructure you normally install?
So we don't use mesh at all. Nowhere in our network is anything meshed. So everything is hardwired. We believe to control the user experience at the edge on every single AP, we need to do that, particularly because we've built a network that is not only capable of delivering GSM offload as we know today, but in the future to be able to do carrier aggregation with the GSM operators, we need to have full management of that, and we're not really convinced of the QoS on mesh. What we prefer to use on backhaul naturally is fiber backhaul. That's unfortunately a function of the continent that we're on. Fiber is still being rolled out in mass. So bar, the very wealthy neighborhoods of our cities, fiber's rather hard to come by and generally rather expensive. So to put it in perspective for you, fiber to the home in my home where I'm speaking to now costs me about $150 per month. On top of that, I still have to have my cable TV subscription and other things. It's not a bundled service. So, think of now carrier grade fiber, what that exponential shift would be. We don't use a lot of point-to-point wireless. We try to steer clear of unlicensed spectrum for backhaul. We like to use licensed spectrum of microwave or 28 gigahertz wireless. And again, the main reason for that is if we sell into GSM operators, the only way that they'll use our network for offload is to understand that the quality of service that their customer gets is exactly the same if they're on the macro network of the operator themselves.
So if you had this corner barbershop, you would get some as close to enterprise grade wired access there and then attach to that?
Yeah, in this particular instance, there's two big townships in Gauteng, the province that I'm located in. And what we did is we partnered with a local fiber company, and we specifically trenched in about 70 kilometers of fiber collectively into these two townships. So what we did is we did the main arterial roads within them, bearing in mind most people walk to a taxi rank and catch mass transit. Vehicle ownership in these areas isn't that high. So doing the main arterial routes within them, you hopefully cover a lot of people in their daily walk, let's say, to the local public transport venues. It didn't exist before. You don't even have copper infrastructure, DSL in the ground. There is nothing other than GSM radio service.
So there was no ISP at this location even before you got started. So you have to bring the infrastructure as well as the wireless side.
Correct. We don't deploy fiber ourselves. We prefer to partner with experts in that. We want to get Ethernet handover from their CPE into our CPE and only concentrate on our endpoints. Again, the way that we've architected the network is a little bit different to what you may expect. On the edge, we have a very thin edge. It's literally routing if needed, switching, and the AP. Everything is then aggregated back on a layer 2 basis into our core network, and we put that through some large aggregation gateways. We stick that through DPI, through a peering, through local caching on our network, and then finally we put transit onto that.
That's fairly complex, but also it sounds very lightweight at the edge. Basically, your core is where all the activity is happening.
Yeah, and that was very deliberate. If you think about if we're trying to build a ubiquitous national network, you almost want to be able to drop ship, via FedEx. Here's the bomb. Plug the red wire to the red plug and plug it to electricity and put the Ethernet, cable for the backhaul. And you want it to be as low touch as possible because it reduces your install cost, but long term it reduces your maintenance cost as well because you don't have to go back on site to do anything bar really an equipment failure.
So your fiber partners you work with turn over just an Ethernet port on both ends for you, and do you pre-stage all your APs so they're all pre-configured that you can actually do that drop shipping?
We do, but we also operate central controllers, so there's nothing, no decision making on the edge at all. So everything's pre-configured from the router, the switch, the AP, and the install vendor literally does cabling and connects the pieces together. And then it will self-provision. It'll, depending on what the venue location is, it'll display the correct landing page. So if you imagine we the providers for Starbucks, Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, Marriott, etc., when we deploy, the captive portal solution then also recognizes correctly which venue it's from, displays the correct UX, depending on the brand as well.
Oh, sounds great. Are you a multi-vendor solution? Do you have different vendors that you install, or have you picked one and you stick it with it everywhere?
So prudence would say have a few vendors so that you keep everybody on their toes. So that is what we have. The dominant radio in our network is Ruckus. We're one of Ruckus's largest customers outside North America. So we have a phenomenal amount invested in Ruckus. We do have some Cisco radio. We do have some Aruba, some legacy Microtech that we gradually upgrade in. And then on the routing and switching side, it's predominantly Cisco, but now with the Aris acquisition of Ruckus/Brocade coming to completion, I think there'll be some stability in that market, and we'll see ourselves trialing out some of the Brocade edge switching as well. And then in terms of the core network, there's not a lot of vendors that you get to choose that from. DPI, we get it from Sandvine, obviously Sandvine, and they're one competitor now, one company, so there's not a lot of choice out there. We use PureApp for our caching, and we're one of Benu's first customers outside North America as well, so we use Benu for our gateway solution. And
then you're also a peer on the network?
Yes, so we do local peering and private peering. So we peer into aggregation. We have something called NAP Africa, which is where a lot of the SPs and content providers peer. But then we also do private peering with, for instance, banks. We do it with an over-the-top media video streaming service. So our pure objective is how do we improve the edge user experience? Everything's about delivering that moment of delight into the consumer's hands so that our customers who really need to concentrate on their branding and their sales activities really don't have to worry about a network element letting down their customers' experience.
Sounds like a unique business model. I don't think I've heard of anyone else who runs that type of a model. You're currently mostly in South Africa, but you're moving across the continent as well?
Currently, we're only in South Africa. I think there's definitely an ambition for a sub-Saharan African expansion, but I think generally you should concentrate on expansion once you've saturated your home market, and we've still got a long way to do with that.
And so what's the population in South Africa?
Population, I'm gonna make up something if I have to give you an answer, but it's
if you're within 20%, I'll be good.
It's north of 75 million population.
So it's a huge market by itself.
Yeah, and most of it's an urbanized market as well. So really concentrated around the really big metropolitan areas because obviously job creation is where that happens. We have a very big poverty issue in Africa, so and low income base. So to give you an idea, our customers sell data by the gig probably 20x cheaper than the GSM equivalent. And unlike maybe markets that you're familiar with, there's no such thing here as an uncapped GSM data offering. Everything is rated by the gig, by the meg, by the gig.
Well, I wish I could say we had unlimited here. We have fake unlimited. But there are some places in Europe that I've been to that have like a nearly true unlimited. So yeah, every time I've been to South Africa, the data rates seemed quite expensive to me.
Yeah, so to equate it to US dollar price, if you think of just prepaid, postpaid contract represents probably 15% of the market in total. The majority of that being corporate use. Prepaid GSM is the dominant product out there, and prepaid GSM you could pay up to 20 US cents a meg, and you could maybe get that.
So no one's watching Netflix on their phone.
Correct. Whereas on our Wi-Fi, one of our customers is retailing at 2 South African cents, which is, for all intents and purposes, 0.2 of a US cent.
Oh, what's that? 1,000 factor different?
So current conversion is 12, 13 to 1. So
no, I mean the difference between
so it's
between GSM data and
it's exponential. Yeah. So it's when I spoke to you about bringing real tangible change to communities, you can understand the impact to a low income community that it's just unaffordable to have GSM data. And majority of that community's experience with the internet is around IM. Their reference points around needing data is for IM because it's just unaffordable to have a browsing experience. What we've also begun to introduce, and this is why we have DPI in line in our stack, is the ability to sell access packages. So you mentioned, consuming Netflix. Well, even on our network, very soon, our customers won't have to offer out a Netflix package on a per meg per gig as an internet, but rather as a fixed price access package, all you can eat.
That does bring a lot of value to the end customer.
There's that, and then
especially from where they're coming from.
Yeah, and then there's just pure understanding. If I had to ask you, what does 100 meg give you? You couldn't tell me if that gives you 5 minutes or 10 minutes on Facebook, because it really depends. Are you watching video? Are you looking at pictures? Are you just consuming text? Whereas if I told you for 50 US cents, you could get uncapped Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for the day, it's something tangible that you understand as a consumer.
That makes it much easier to sell and much easier to explain what you're buying. Yeah,
correct. The explanation is really the key part.
And when you talk about data, it's like who's counting the data? Is it at the Wi-Fi side or is it the backhaul? I mean, I've been places where if you just turned on Google Maps for 10 minutes, you get a huge bill. So.
Correct. Look, what we've also done is we've built a massive content portal. So if you think about it, an extended walled garden, because what we also realized from an affordability perspective is some people's decision points to buy data may be which meal of the day I forego. So we've really tried to think about how can we enable communities to become digital citizens? How can we enable them to receive current news from not only in their own country, but from around the world? How can we let them search job portals at no cost to themselves? So, I spoke around the multiple revenue streams. That's another one that we focus quite heavily on, is our on landing page marketing activities. And that's how we're able to do the massive walled garden.
I'm sure you have massive caching as well to help support that. Have you noticed, this is kind of more of a technical question, is there a lot of cost savings on your upstream peering by having big caching servers?
We still buy more transit than what we need. The caching was put in place to improve experience. So if you think about, although we have a lot of submarine cables, fiber cables connecting South Africa to the rest of the world, physics says we're at the south of Africa. There's a certain latency to get to a content server sitting in the UK or the US. So if we cache in the latest app or that funny cat video, it's really about the edge user experience. Our own content generation, we essentially have that as a CDN resident in our core. And because we're running a layer 2 network, we don't get the contention that you would expect, because we're serving it out as an on-net service on our own network.
So who makes the decision on what goes in that basically free walled garden area?
We have a strategic partnership with a digital marketing agency, and they know that space best. We're a tech company. We want to deploy great hardware, run it optimally and efficiently so that our customers have a great experience. We don't want to distract ourselves with what should the latest UI look like, or how best to lay out something so that people understand the navigation or the graphics around it. So, and that works really well for us because they make those decisions, and not only that, they also populate the ad inventory for us with their relationships into the media world.
Well, I'm very impressed with your business model that is so dependent on partners, so that you don't have to be good at all those other things. That's a very wise decision. But I do have a question about your business model and being in such a high growth mode. High growth is normally very capital intensive. How are you finding the capital markets there in your region to support this kind of activity?
Thank goodness we have our company is privately owned by two shareholders, one being Dimension Data and another one being a company called Nuspers, who own the biggest pay TV operation across Africa. So we are still funded by our shareholders, and they definitely have the vision and the ambition to continue to invest. So, we haven't had to go tap external capital sources to deploy. Our owners are in it for the long term and see the value into not only their current businesses, but future business, value that we're able to generate for them.
Vast is in a very nice position. I'm quite impressed.
Yeah, nice position.
Not every startup does what you've done.
Always pushing water uphill. There's always challenges, as you know, and particularly the environmental challenges of deploying within our region, are quite large.
Well, and you've got this far in just 3 years. That's pretty big growth.
Yeah, and this year we hope to double our footprint in terms of venue count. So currently we have around 2,500 venues. We won't double the square meterage count because you have a diminishing return on large venues. So the top 120 malls within the country, we're the exclusive Wi-Fi provider to them. The biggest private hospital chain, we provide their Wi-Fi. And it's interesting, constantly exposing these other revenue streams to you. And there's another one that's just come to mind, as I mentioned, the hospital group is not only do we run the public Wi-Fi in terms of their guest access and have our customers offer their over-the-top services, but at the same time, our network is also the corporate network of the hospital group itself. So we provide their wireless LAN services across the hospital themselves. So one unified set of infrastructure, probably doing about 7 different businesses simultaneously.
You've taken the idea of a managed service provider definitely to the limit. That's well done.
We try and you constantly scratch your head to find what that next one is, because each one in a different place has a different ratio of what you're able to derive for it. Obviously, in places like the township, you won't be getting enterprise services over it. So you really got to constantly scratch our head and innovate in the space.
Have you looked into the education market? I'm sure there's obviously tons of schools, and there is usually some form of backhaul there, and they're usually placed near where people need it, but that there's a whole other set of political and issues there.
So we certainly have, and it does represent an opportunity, and definitely fits our mantra of bringing connectivity to communities. Whether you want to be researching an assignment or while your parents are waiting to pick you up from school, whether they want to be using the internet, there's definitely a need. In terms of the on-campus, if you want to call it that, Wi-Fi need, our business model doesn't lend itself very well to supporting that, because a lot of the time there needs to be an on-site CDN, separate SSID that has WPA2 access just for the students on campus. And again, that light edge mantra that we have kind of falls down with that. And we'd rather at this point stick to keeping our edge light while we're in this high growth mode than starting to complicate and have these pockets of anomalies around our network.
Well done. Well, anything you want to say? How would someone track you down, but either you personally to talk more about this or your company?
So I'm on Twitter. My handle's @GrantMurray, LinkedIn, and our company website has a lot of details on us, which is vast.network.
Well, we'll put links to all of those in the show notes. And if anyone wants to contact you, they can just click on those in the show notes. Well, thank you very much, Grant, for giving us a little insight into how your vast network has, in 3 years, grown in the South Africa market. I think you give an example of how managed services can be more than just providing a single revenue stream and do it with an open network. So congratulations on your success, and we hope even more comes for you.
Thank you very much, Keith.
10 Talks.
All right. Hi, my name is Robert Ferruolo. I work for Mojo Networks. I'm a TME, and I'm going to talk about a tool that we have for our protocol of our packet capture analysis. Before I start, though, I want to do a quick poll to try to find out which tools people are using right now. So, how many people are using IPA as their primary tool? IPA, MetaGeek. Few there. How about OmniPeak? More. And Air Magnet? Okay. How about ComView? Temosoft. ComView. And Wireshark. Everyone, yeah. Right. And last one, CloudShark. One person, CloudShark, right back there. Cool. All right. Thanks. So Mojo Packets. This is the outline here. We'll do an intro, then we'll do a quick evolution of Mojo Packets, ways to capture and upload, and then a quick look at some of the unique features. So Mojo Packets is really talking about, actually going back to what Sudhir was talking about in terms of trying to simplify things, and that's exactly what the Mojo Packets is about. Staring at packet captures, it's great if you understand the protocols and you're going to go through all the the packet captures, but that can be very challenging. So what we try to do is, with Mojo Packets, do a graphical representation of the conversation between the clients and the APs to make the pattern recognition, because that's ultimately you're looking for patterns, right? You're looking to see how a conversation is either what you expect it to be or not. And so with the graphical analysis, it makes it easy. We also try to make it really easy to capture and upload, which can be challenging sometimes, right? Getting that packet capture and getting it uploaded. So we try to simplify that, and we use some third-party tools, so we'll talk about that, or you can use the access point. Also simplifies collaboration, because it's in the cloud, it's a cloud-based tool, it's really easy to share the capture and have someone else take a quick peek at it. Another one that we just recently added is auto root cause analysis. And that we're really excited about that, because if it is a pattern that you're trying to recognize, machines can recognize patterns, right? So with using machine learning, we can get auto RCA. And of course, it's free. It's completely free, so everyone can sign up. And if the bags that we all got on the first day, there's a flyer in there with the URL to sign up. And it's free for a lifetime. It's not like after 6 months you're not going to be able to use it. So please do sign up. I think you'll enjoy it. And you can get your customers to sign up too, of course, and especially customers that don't know much about protocol analysis. This will really help them. I won't go through the evolution here because I won't have time to. Just wanted to point out a couple of things. The ones that I'm excited about myself, because I do a lot of competitive performance testing, single AP, multi-AP, and so on, a ton of it. And so the performance dashboards that we added in 2015, really excited about that. Another one that I'm excited about is the integration for AirTool. That's really nice. So you can get, with AirTool, you can just do a capture and upload directly to Mojo packets. And then auto packet capture. So we'll show you where if there's at least if you have a Mojo wireless solution and there's an error detected, you're going to get a auto packet capture, and then the auto root cause analysis. All right, so just to talk about the capturing. So you can capture from an AP, of course. If you have a Mojo solution, you can capture from the AP. And I want to point out that when you're doing this capture from the AP, you have a lot of filters, a lot of things you can do here. You can capture, with the third radio, by the way, we have the 3 radio APs, and with the third radio, you're able to capture, say which channels that you want to capture, not the operating channel, but other channels. And you're also able to do wired capture. So going back to what Peter was saying, having both the wired and the wireless can be really helpful. So you're able to do select here, and of course, you have a lot of other filters too in types of what type of packets you want to capture. That would be for an AP. Now, for a particular client, if you wanted to initiate a packet capture just from a client, you'd go here, and then they would be filtered on that particular client, again, with other selections in terms of which packets you want to collect. But here's the one that I think is really the most exciting one. Here is when there's capturing, it's an auto capture. So if there was a client that had a problem connecting, the system would do the packet capture automatically. Actually, it's already doing the packet capture for all the connections, and when the connection fails for some reason, it saves that packet capture. And then you can go to that packet capture, and if you click here, it would go up into Mojo packets, into the cloud, so you'd have it. Or you could download it if you wanted to analyze it on some local analyzer, whatever, Wireshark or OmniPeak and such. Now here, talking about third-party tools, this is where you would use the AirTool, and you would just configure it to send the packet capture right up into the cloud directly, as opposed to saving it locally to your machine. It's really easy to set up too. You just go into your Mojo packet setup, and you click on that. You'll get your API key. You plug that key in here, and you'll have your login, and then it will start pushing that packet capture up into the cloud. So that simplifies things. If you use Wireshark, there's a plugin that you'll load, and then you'll get the config, this little text config, again, from your account of Mojo packets. Cut and paste that here, and you're good to go. Then Wireshark will send it right up into the cloud. All right, so those are ways to capture. Now, as far as the Mojo packets, some of the new things that we added were the connectivity dashboard. And I know you can't read this, it's so, it's unfortunately it's very small, but if there's a problem, client with a problem, that would show up here, and if there were more than one, those clients would be listed down here, and then it'll tell you what the problem is, basically, as different categories. And this one, it is an EPO failure. So let's see, now frame view. This is really the heart and soul of Mojo packets, is being able to look at the packet capture graphically. And I know this is too small for you to see, but basically along here, these are the different types of packets here listed here, from your authentication association and so on, and then your key, your handshaking here. And so as you go up, if you go higher, you're getting closer to connecting until finally you would connect and you'd see your data packets if you had a successful connection. So here we have a pattern that obviously repeats itself. Now, basically we have the four-way handshake, and then we get a de-authentication, four-way handshake, de-authentication, four-way handshake. I didn't do this packet capture. I saw it up on Mojo Packets, and I reached out to the person that did it. I really didn't know what it was. Does anyone want to take a guess at what the problem was here, where you keep, after the four-way handshake, you keep getting de-auth? It could be a number of things, probably, but in this particular case, it was a gaming system that was trying to connect to a AP that didn't have all the data rates that it needed to support. So it didn't have support for some of the data rates that were required, so it kept trying and then kept failing. What I did was, the person that did the packet capture, he didn't remember, well, he didn't know which one I was talking about. So what I did was I used our collaboration, and he actually said, can you send, the link? So if you click here on the collaboration, you'll get this pop-up. And if you click that, you could send this to anyone. So you could send this to anyone that they don't have to have a Mojo Packets account, but once you send this link to them via email, they can click on that link and then they can come in and they can look at it. By the way, this is not a static. This is, you can actually zoom in here, and it's a little tricky to do a live demo, but I may be able to if I have a minute to. I have one kind of set there. So anyways, yeah, you could look at this and you could play it like a movie, so you could scroll out so deep. This is, we're here, you'd be able to go out in time and you could just continue out, this trace would continue. So yeah, that's collaboration, it really makes it easy. Now on the performance side, we have a lot of performance dashboards, and I won't go through all of them, but what we've tried to do is identify the things that you'll be interested in terms of, it's really hard for me to even see it here because I have this small, but in terms of frame size, or in terms of retry rate, RSSI distribution, the worst RSSI to best RSSI, and so on. And so you'll get a lot of different performance metrics. And here, this is where one of Brian's, when he was using with Python and Panda, where he was talking about your back of the napkin, right? So here you can look at your, let's see, retry rates here, super small, average RSSI there, and then data rates and so on. So, and these are you can sort these. So if I click on this, I can see the clients with the highest retry rates, or the clients with the highest data rates or lowest data rates, and so on. So you can see if a particular MAC address is whatever that client is having in the way of causing it to perform poorly. And let's see. In the visual frame view, one of the other things we added last year, actually it was, I think it was this last year, we added this over in 2014, where this is right there in the back, you can't see it, but those are data packets in transmission and receive. And what we've done is if you click here and here, you get the superimposition of the data frame size and the data rates. So you can get an idea if, where the conversation may be going south, and if you're getting poor performance. And here you have the sizes of the data rates and the frames, or data rates and frame sizes. Okay, pattern recognition, auto RCA. Going back to one of Brian's, another talk that he gave, he was talking about PSK failing at 2 of 4, right, step 2 of 4. Well, that's what's happening here. You see, you get the authentication association, and then it's 2 of 4, 2 of 4, 2 of 4. If I could zoom in here, you would see it's still at 2 of 4, so it keeps failing at 2 of 4. So we would know it's probably a bad PSK. Well, if we can determine that too, why not have the machine determine that? And that's actually what it does now. So it'll show you right down here that it's a bad PSK. So it does that for you. So for people that especially for people that don't know much about Wi-Fi, they can use this, and they don't have to know that at the mic failure 2 of 4 with bad PSK. It just tells you. So That's where we're going. And by the way, in the Mojo system, the wireless sound system, the Mojo Aware piece, we are further along in terms of root cause analysis, in terms of the types of failures that we can identify. So there's a little bit of a lag, but Mojo packets will be catching up. Okay. The community. Yeah, I point this out because as a community, you'll want to go here, and we really want feature requests. We really love to get your input because it's a free tool, and so the more people use this and they can contribute with their ideas, the better it will become. So please do go there and submit your feature requests. And that's pretty much it. That's how we'll go to sign up.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @Wireless LAN Pros for all the latest news and updates, and also connect directly with Keith on Twitter @Keith R. Parsons. Head over to www.wlanpros.com for this episode's show notes, as well as the latest in all things Wi-Fi.